You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, everybody, to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. I am Kate Magdziuk. You can follow me on Twitter at FFBallblast. And as always, I'm joined by my awesome co-host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow him at Marcus_Mosher over on the Twits. Please give the show a follow, too, at Locked On Dynasty. Never miss an episode. We post them all there. Just so you know, they hit. We post them as soon as they hit, so you never miss a show. But even better, you could subscribe on YouTube, which is our new baby. Follow us, subscribe over there, and you can get these live shows where you get the opportunity to ask us your questions while we are streaming, and we are talking about all the Dynasty football you can handle. Marcus, happy Monday. What is up?
Not too much, Kate. I was hoping that this week in the NFL would be a little bit more calm and relaxed. And nope, that was not the case at all. We had some wild games between Washington upsetting Tampa Bay. Your Steelers tied the Detroit Lions in honestly the most disgusting game I've ever watched. Just a crazy week in the NFL. But we should start with injuries, right? Like that's the big news of the week. And let's start with Robert Woods. This one actually happened or broke. Was it Saturday morning?
It broke Saturday morning. Happened Friday's practice, which is pretty incredible. It came out afterwards that Robert Woods tore his ACL at practice, and then came back in and finished. I think he finished practice, and then he did all the post game chatter uppers, and he just went through his whole day, and then they're like, "Oh crap, he tore his ACL." Which just shows you how tough of a guy Robert Woods is. But I mean, thank God the LA Rams made a play at Odell Beckham Jr. because we got that news Thursday. So it had nothing to do with this torn ACL. It's just perfect timing.
All right, so let's dive into this Robert Woods thing. So he is currently 29 years old. He turns 30 in April. Obviously, he's going to miss the rest of this season. You would expect him to be back early on next year just because, the way ACL injuries are, it's not really a 12-month injury anymore. It's really a 9-month injury. And
it was a clean ACL tear, so there was another ligament damage, which is this is a huge positive.
What's the long-term effect here? Because I was actually listening to another Dynasty podcast, and they said you're free to drop Robert Woods now because even when he played this year, it wasn't like he was giving you elite production. Over the last month of the season, he was averaging just 58 yards, and now they're bringing in Odell and Cooper Kupp's the clear-cut wide receiver one there. I'm not saying to drop him, but obviously this takes, this is a major hit to his value, right?
Don't drop him. There's still plenty of trade value there, even if because on my end of things, I'm looking at Robert Woods, long-term situation, looking at his contract situation. I mean, he's signed with the Rams through the 2025 season. Every single season he carries a dead cap, but even in the 2022 season, he carries $12 million in dead cap. And I'm gonna say I don't think the Rams would be super wise to play or to release him or trade him in any of that manner because his cap hit's only $15 million to begin with. You only save $2 million by getting rid of Robert Woods. It just doesn't feel like that's a super smart move from a football situation. But Robert Woods is just a good football player. He hasn't performed for fantasy in the way that you would expect. But let's look at the fact about Dynasty fantasy footballs. Our rosters are deep. They need to be deep. We need depth. This is like way too premature. We saw Emmanuel Sanders come back from a torn Achilles, at 30, 31. We're going to be perfectly fine having Robert Woods. And I think maybe this is my opportunity to go out and trade him or check my waiver wires.
Well, so I'm looking at some Dynasty League football trades, and we've actually had several since the injury broke. And it's fascinating what his price is right now. So let's just go through a couple, Kate. Robert Woods for Jamison Crowder, straight up.
Done. Give me Robert Woods.
I agree with you. I agree. Robert Woods for Tim Patrick.
Give me Robert Woods.
I agree with you. We'll go through a couple more. Robert Woods for Emmanuel Sanders.
Give me Robert Woods.
Robert Woods for Sterling Shepard.
Give me Robert Woods.
So
I'm
yeah,
apparently
you're seeing that
I'm
you can go
apparently
out and
high.
get you can get Robert Woods pretty cheap right now. It's just, how long do you want to roster a guy that's probably, I mean, he's never going to be a wide receiver one. I don't think he ever was at any point. And now he's like a borderline wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. I think there's some problems with roster construction if you have short benches, if you don't have IR spots. But if you can afford to go out and stash him right now, I think you do that. If you are a non-contending team, I think that's a smart move to make, right?
Yeah, I mean, the key here, and this is the reason why I answered those questions the way that I did. The key for me is how high is the upside when those players are at their best. Jamison Crowder has not been immune to health issues. I mean, Robert Woods has largely been just a pretty healthy dude. He's been available for your teams, even though there has been plenty of ups and downs. He's still a wide receiver on one of the best offenses in the NFL with one of the best coaches in the NFL, tied to one of the best quarterbacks, at least right now. I don't know. Matthew Stafford isn't our dynasty QB1 yet, but I think the situation's too good for Robert Woods, and I just think his upside's too high to ignore. He's definitely a candidate that I want to trade for and stash.
I agree with you. I think this is a good time to buy Robert Woods because he's going to be 30 next year. I do think you can get some solid, even if it's just flex production out of him over the next couple of years at a very, very cheap price. Let's just take a quick break so I can tell you guys about Built Bar. It's the best tasting protein bar out there. It's hard to even explain it. Real chocolate with amazing flavors, and it's just a great combination of low calories, high protein, and low sugar with no crazy additives. Best of all, they taste fantastic. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your next box at BuiltBar.com. All right, Kate, another injury that we have to talk about, Aaron Jones. Now, this one isn't as serious. It sounds like it's a sprained MCL. Still could keep him out of the lineup for, let's say, 2 to 4 weeks. And that means it's A.J. Dillon's backfield. We saw him in this game, 21 carries for 66 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also added in 2 receptions for 62 yards. What's the value for A.J. Dillon going forward? Because last year we really didn't see A.J. Dillon at all until the end of the year. Even before the Aaron Jones injury, this was trending towards a split, backfield in a committee. Now A.J. Dillon is going to get the lion's share of the workload over the next month. Does this change your thoughts on Dillon at all?
I like Dillon. I think he's a fantastic, trade candidate. If you are a contender, he's somebody you need to buy to, secure up these final weeks of your fantasy football season. I think right now you could probably would you say you could get Dillon for a second, or is that not enough?
Oh, I don't think that's enough. No, I'll pull up some trades here in a second, but no,
I'm actually surprised because I want to leverage
AJ Dillon. I'm not trading him for a second round pick. I'm just not.
I'm surprised because I want to use the leverage that Aaron Jones is coming back to dangle that and say, I'm renting this player. I am renting this top end running back value.
So Kate, these are some trades that happened for AJ Dillon over the last couple of days before the Aaron Jones injury. Let's go through them. AJ Dillon in a 2022 first for Kyle Pitts.
Okay, I like that.
Okay. AJ Dillon for Calvin Ridley.
What?
Yeah. Now that one's a little harder because of some of the off the field stuff, right? Like is we don't know when Calvin Ridley's going to come back. If he does come back, we don't know if Calvin Ridley's going to play at all this season. So that one I'm a little bit more comfortable saying let's just kind of ignore. All right. AJ Dillon for a second round pick, a 2022 second round pick, and Rondelle Moore.
Yeah, I would do that.
Which side would you do that?
Oh, sorry. AJ Dillon.
Okay. How about this one? Last one. AJ Dillon in a 22 first round pick for Dalvin Cook.
Oh my gosh. Give me Dalvin Cook.
Okay. So you're still not sold on this AJ Dillon thing.
No, and I love AJ Dillon. I love
Okay.
AJ Dillon, the player. I've always likened him as a Derrick Henry light. Love those quads, my man. Those big tree trunks, those are fantastic. But I'm not sold. Like I think that kind of value is something that I want from a team or out of a rookie running back, or not a rookie running back anymore, but I want that kind of value as a running back who, on a team that didn't just sign their franchise running back to another long-term deal.
Yeah.
Like Aaron Jones is not just going to go away here, even though
I
AJ
agree.
Dillon's
However,
coming on.
I do think there's a world in which both of these guys can be very productive players, and we've been seeing it over the last couple of weeks, right? And that's even without, Aaron Rodgers in the Chiefs game. So I'm probably just not giving AJ Dillon up for a second round pick just because, man, I think we're going to see this over the next month, Kate, is like AJ Dillon in a lead role on an Aaron Rodgers offense is going to be a low end RB1 every single week.
Yeah, I think the volume's going to be there. Let's say, okay, I'll amend my statement. I'll do a second plus one of these younger wide receivers. Like I really liked the Rondelle Moore pick because we know that, Rondelle Moore flashed, but we haven't seen much out of him since, outside of that one broken coverage play that just piled on the yards and stats. I do think, maybe throwing in, one of these young receivers with upside that hasn't quite displayed that yet, throwing in some of that promise, they could be the sprinkles on the cake. But I'm not ready to commit a first yet. And that's me. But it's just the Aaron Jones roadblock. But I mean, if you're a contender, it's going to be really hard to find a probably cheaper RB1 rest of season than AJ Dillon.
So, like, if somebody offered you, if you had AJ Dillon, a second round pick in, let's say, Nico Collins for Dillon, is that something you'd be interested in? Or is Nico not good enough?
I wouldn't say Nico's good enough. Nico on any other team but the Texans, that would be good enough.
Like Elijah Moore's probably too much, right?
Elijah Moore's probably a little too much, but if I actually maybe that's the perfect offer, right? Because Elijah Moore, he's come on recently, but there's still question marks there. Once Zach Wilson comes back, is he going to still be able to sustain that production? Maybe a second and Elijah Moore for AJ Dillon is my perfect package.
How about you could get Robert Woods in there? You trade Robert Woods for AJ Dillon in a second. Oh
my gosh, I love that. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, let's get to some actual performances from on the field, Kate. Again, I know you were not able to watch a lot of these games, but your Steelers against the Lions was just a fantastic game for so many different reasons. If you love comedy, but Deandre Swift, Kate, in this game, 33 carries for 130 yards. He also added in 3 receptions for 5 yards in this game, and then Najee Harris, 26 carries for 105 yards, and he had 4 catches for 28 yards. So my question for you is this: which running back do you want going forward?
Ooh.
I'm going to give you the arguments for each of them, right?
Okay.
I obviously trust, I think, the Steelers offense. Well, do I? Yeah, I think I do. I think I trust the Steelers offense going forward more than the Lions. However, DeAndre Swift is younger. He's got more big play potential. It seems like they do use him a ton as a receiver. Not that the Steelers don't use Najee as a receiver a lot, because they do. But this one's interesting to me. Which one do you like better?
I think I roll with Najee, and this is not just me being the biased Steelers fan.
I mean, it is a little bit, at least. Just a bit.
Maybe it's a little bit. But
you do have a Najee jersey directly behind your head right now.
Oh my gosh, I forgot that was there. Yeah, that is kind of damning. I think you could probably trade them for each other straight up. Like if you find, if you're interested in, like, I think these guys are on a very similar playing field right now in Dynasty, but I do think I roll with Najee, and the answer comes down to, I think Najee is the focal point of that offense. just moving forward. Like this team has
I would
made
agree.
it its goal to establish the run. The offensive line looks much better than it did to start the season. They look like they're gelling and gaining more chemistry. My question mark with Deandre Swift is he going to be as heavily involved as a receiver once they don't have Khalif Raymond as the wide receiver one?
Yeah,
Like,
probably just
that's
because
the
he's such a
question.
good receiver, right?
Yes, but will he be as heavily involved? I don't know. I don't trust that because I think, though he's a good receiver and I do think you need to get him involved, um, I still think that there's some of that narrative and some of these touches that are being produced for him just by the fact that there's nobody else to catch the ball. I have to imagine, and I think it's going to be much better football to watch when they're able to spread the ball around a little bit more. And, maybe that increases the efficiency for Deandre Swift.
Sure.
Teams don't know that he's the de facto target every week, but, you know,
I don't know. It's interesting. Here's what I would say, Kate, is that DeAndre Swift, yes, he had 33 carries in this game, but in the 8 games before this, he has averaged 11.3 carries per game. Now he's making up for it, obviously, in the receiving game, right? He was averaging basically 6 catches a game. However, Najee in his last 5 games is averaging 24.2 carries per game on top of 3.5 catches. If you're getting somebody with that much volume, I don't care how inefficient you are as a runner, which he is, 3.8 yards per carry. It's just he's the guy in Pittsburgh. He's always going to be the guy. They're not interested in giving the ball to anybody else. Benny Snell had 1 touch yesterday, and that was the
and
entire
that was one
workload.
touch too many.
Yeah, it was 1 touch too many. And that's all the touches the Steelers gave to every other running back on the roster. So I think it's close. I think I think he has a chance to be even better if he gets with a better quarterback next year, if the offense is just better. But I do agree with you. I think it's probably Najee Harris, as much as I hate to agree with you on that.
And we talk about inefficiency. DeAndre Swift is only averaging 3.4 yards per attempt this season. No, not bueno, guys, not bueno.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not like the touchdowns are all that different, though, right? Like, it's not like Najee scoring a bunch more touchdowns, but he's got 6 touchdowns on the year, and I believe Swift has. I'm looking it up, 5. So even though
Give
Pittsburgh's
me
offense is
Najee or
better,
give me death.
okay, all right, just
Okay.
relax there, Kate. It's time to be. All
I
right,
know, I
one more
feel
quick.
I can't flex
Good.
anymore after what we saw yesterday. And honest to God, so guys, I was down for the count yesterday. I was quite ill. Did not watch the football games up until I couldn't watch until like Sunday night football. But I'm really glad, honestly, that I missed out on the Steelers game because I was watching the box score on my phone on the ESPN app and nauseated as all could be. It sounds like that was a good one that I missed out on. But Marcus, looking across many of the box scores from yesterday, this sounded like a disastrous week from the get, and not just for my Pittsburgh Steelers. So can you get me caught up on some of the big news from yesterday? Who was the most disappointing quarterback yesterday? Because we had a lot of them. We saw Cam Newton come in his first game back with the Panthers, which I'm all in on. I'm very excited for Cam Newton. Scored 11 fantasy points, and that was like actually more than a lot of quarterbacks like Matthew Ryan. He doesn't even get a Matt this week. He gets Matthew Ryan.
Matt Ryan was the most disappointing quarterback. So
I don't fantasy know. Points.
Yeah, oh my gosh. So the first drive of the game, it was very impressive by them. They went 8 plays, 58 yards, and it was just chunk play after chunk play. I'll read them to you. It was a Matt Ryan pass to Kyle Pitts for 17 yards. And then it was another pass to Kyle Pitts for 18 yards. And then it was a pass to Cordero Patterson for 14 yards. And then it was a pass to Russell Gage for 12 yards. And then from that point on, Kate, Matt Ryan had 5 completions the rest of the day. 5. In a game that was a complete blowout. Matt Ryan never had a third down conversion in this game. The offense never crossed midfield at all from the second and third quarter. In fact, Kate, in the second quarter, the Falcons had negative yards of offense, negative 14 yards of offense. It's just
Oh
so
my.
frustrating because we see weeks where Matt Ryan looks really good and this offense, is fun. And Cordero Patterson's getting 125 yards through the air and Kyle Pitts looks unstoppable. But then there's games like this where they just look absolutely atrocious. He was my most disappointing quarterback of the day. I want to get to some of the other news and notes from around the league. But before we do that, I should tell you guys about DirecTV. I use DirecTV every single day. I've got 3 TVs in my basement so I can watch all the games. So I had the Steeler Lion game on one of the smaller TVs just because of the comedy. And my gosh, Jared Goff, if you want to see bad quarterback play, holy cow. But DirecTV Stream allows me to watch all these games. It gives you live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, which means you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So stop waiting and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. That is directtv.com, directtv.com. Also want to tell you guys about BetOnline. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season. Head to the new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. All you have to do is use promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, baseball, postseason, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the games begin. All right, Kate, let's get to a couple other things from Sunday. Romandra Stevenson. No Damian Harris in this game. He was out with a concussion, I believe. Romandra Stevenson was the lead guy in this one. 20 carries for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also caught 4 passes for 14 yards. If you are a Damian Harris fantasy owner, are you nervous about Stevenson potentially taking over this role as the lead back?
I wouldn't say I'm necessarily concerned to that point yet, where I worry that Damian Harris will lose his role within the offense, but I worry that they're going to get this role split. Like that's a genuine concern because I think as we've seen this season, as they've rotated through running backs, it's not just been Damian Harris that has found success. Seems like every time any of these guys touch the ball, they produce a successful run. And I think from a football standpoint, if I'm the coach and I'm looking to keep my running backs healthy and fresh, if they're all being equally productive and there's not one outshining the other, then my inclination would be to rotate these guys through the back to keep them fresh. And that is very concerning for fantasy football. So honestly, I'm not hoping to have either of these guys. If I had to pick one, it'd probably be Romandre Stevenson, just because I can get him at a much lower price. But this is going to be a really tough time, I think, to move on from Damian Harris until you see maybe other injuries in the backfield that force him back into a role where he sees 20 carries in a game. Then you sell him.
It does make me nervous. I really like Damian Harris, but how can you put Romandre Stevenson back on the bench when he plays like this? I think at the very worst, this is a 70-30 split going forward. And then we need to remember James White is out for the season with a hip injury. He's going to come back because we know Bill Belichick loves him, and he's going to eat into that passing work. So I don't know if you can sell Damian Harris now because of what Romandre Stevenson just did, but I guess I would be nervous. But any other big takeaways from this game? Are the Chiefs back? I mean, Patrick Mahomes did throw for 5 touchdowns and 400 yards this week.
The Chiefs are back. I do think we need to talk about the fact that Darrell Williams had a absolutely fantastic day. You cannot beat the way that he was so involved as a receiver. He looked really good. My question, I think the Chiefs obviously need to have an established run game, which I do think they had more of that, in the beginning of the season when Clyde Edwards-Helaire was healthy. Definitely, I think Darrell Williams is somebody to keep your eye on. I love Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I've made that perfectly clear, but he's played really well whenever he's been given the opportunity. So I wonder if he is going to see more of a passing down role because he was an excellent receiver. And I think he provided Travis Kelce and Tyreek Tyreek Hill a lot of breathing room when they were able to establish him as a receiver out of the backfield.
Last thing before we head out, Odell Beckham playing tonight for the Rams in place of
I'm so
Robert
excited.
Woods. What's your prediction? His stat line prediction tonight? Does he score a touchdown?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think
gets at
I
least
think
one.
he scores a touchdown. I don't think he's going to have 100 receiving yards, but I could picture him having like, maybe 5 for 50 and a score. And I
He's
think
going to
they're
be
going to make
involved,
it.
right?
Yeah, I think they're going to make it a point to get him involved early.
I
Like
agree.
he might not be executing a lot of these flashy plays because he's still got a lot to learn in terms of the playbook. But I do think they at a certain point, just run Odell up the side of the field, maybe get him on some slants. He knows how to do the rest, and his scheme is irrelevant. They're gonna get him involved.
I agree. He's gonna score a touchdown tonight, and we're gonna hear all about how it wasn't his fault in Cleveland. It was the Browns' fault, and Odell's back. And I'm ready.
I'm excited for that narrative though, because I mean, my guy Odell, he's been dogged on, and I think he needs I think he needs a little love because he's been the subject of much grumpiness. Like, go Odell, I'm rooting for him. Excited to see what we have to talk about on Thursday. And we are going to come back to Odell. On Thursday.
Yes, we are going to come back to Odell because every show is an Odell show. And that's what I talked about on Friday when you weren't here. It was Odell's Dynasty value. And that show in about a day was completely irrelevant because now Robert Woods is out for the year. So
that's fantasy football, man.
That's fantasy football for you. So that is it for today's show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You can download the show wherever you get your podcast. Continue to check us out on YouTube. We really appreciate you guys watching us over there. You can follow the show at Locked On Dynasty. You can follow Kate at FF Ball Blast, and I'm at Marcus _Mosher. And we'll see you next time.